Hey everyone. So we have, like I mentioned before, this is a great inspiration to me, Wilfred Buck. He's going to talk about the star stories of the Cree Nation. And for me, I found Wilfred over a year ago on a website called Science Friday. And I saved it on my phone. I never let the browser close because I knew I wanted to talk to him at one point and introduce him to our group and our students. And I've been just following him and his videos, and we've been communicating. So now he agreed to come on and talk with us. And we've just been talking about a lot of star stories just now. So he's gonna, and they're the same. We're finding, and most of you are my students, so you know, like, what we talk about the Pleiades, about light energy. We talk about Orion. We talk about the galactic center as being, you know, the 13th zodiac sign where the feathered serpents are and the feathered beings are, you know. So all that is the same information that Wilfred also has. So we're gonna just I'm gonna introduce him, and then I think we're gonna put this on Facebook Live too. So.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So Wilfred, introduce yourself. Oh, actually, what we're gonna do is Hillary's gonna do a grounding first for all of us before we get talking, and then we're gonna have Wilfred introduce himself and talk about his foundation that he's working with, the schools for the First Nation that we just found out. There's like 55 schools or something like that
around Manitoba.
And in Manitoba, that they're teaching or reteaching or remembering the First Nation Indigenous ways. So it's pretty impressive. So anyway, let's get started. We're gonna have Hillary do a quick grounding for us.
And a land acknowledgement as well.
Yeah.
Wherever we are. And so I invite you to get comfortable in your seat and close your eyes and notice what you are feeling in your bodies, and to feel your connection to the earth through your bones, and to find yourself breathing into your bones through that connection, into wherever you are seated or however you are in this moment. Breathing in, receiving this experience of being held and supported, and breathing out and releasing whatever you need to release to be fully present with us here today. And continuing that breath of receiving and releasing as you become more present and available to notice your experience in your body, as well as to listen and to receive the stories that Wilfred has to teach us. And I invite you to feel that connection to the earth wherever you are, the land where you are, and to honor the Indigenous ancestors of the land where you are. And if you know their names, you can honor their names by saying them out loud, or you can say them in your heart. Where I am here in Saratoga Springs, New York, it's the Mohican and the Mohawk and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And to feel your heart in connection with the earth. And as a representative of the settler peoples, I want to apologize for how the settler people have taken this land and have separated the Indigenous peoples from their land, wherever they are from. I want to say I'm sorry. And I ask that I be guided, and that we are guided to find ways to honor the land where we are, and to honor the Indigenous peoples wherever we are, and to learn more about them, to learn more about the land, and to support the Indigenous peoples to thrive and their cultures to flourish, so that they can share their wisdom with each other and that we may learn. So taking a breath into that and releasing, surrendering to the earth, and opening your heart, and also opening your mind to the vast expanse of the cosmos above you, and to receive the wisdom in whatever way we can from the ancestor star peoples, to be receptive as vessels between this earth and the vast cosmos and the unknown. May we receive and honor what we receive and learn. Blessed be.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
With each other.
One second, I think.
Is that the Facebook Live?
Yeah. Okay, so that was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's get started, and let's listen to Wilfred Buck. Like I said, he's been a great inspiration to me with the star stories and his enthusiasm of just sharing star stories. that's kind of like where he's at, and that's where I'm at. So, all right, Wilfred, you want to take it away?
Okay. All right. Tase do temenawak. Pami negi te teach kevne to snigasen. Opaskwayak ni no che. Ego Wilfred Buck ni to snigasen. Maskone to them. Pinesi wak ni to them. Maigan. Ego mikashun to them. Itmagi to them. Maikaskiten. Smart one in ask mit nan no sigo. No sigo. Ego pima tishun. Greetings, my relatives. My name is Wilfred Buck. I'm also known as Pwaminiga Ichigo, which translates as the Dream Keeper. My people, we are Inuit. We are known as Cree, but we call ourselves Inuit. Inuit, the root word for Inuit is Neo, and Neo means four. So the loose translation of the name we have for ourselves is beings of the four. So we're looking at the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and the emotional. And we're told that when all those things are in balance, then we are truly centered. And we are truly a vessel of passing knowledge. And some of us try all their lives to find that balance. And some of us find a little bit. So you're going to hear a little bit today. Like I said, I'm from Opaskwayak Cree Nation. Opaskwayak is a community on the banks of the Saskatchewan River and in north central Manitoba. And originally, Opaskwayak was a meeting place, was a holy place, was a gathering place for my people, but not only for my people, for people from pretty much all over North America. It was a healing place. At the banks of the Saskatchewan River, where the Opaskwayak River and the Saskatchewan River met, there was a meteor impact. And part of that meteor was exposed on the banks. And people have come to see that as a very sacred place, as a holy place. And they found that they got healing, they got comfort, they got direction, they got solace from that place. And so they held ceremony there every year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And with the coming of the Europeans and the Anglican priests, they arrived and they saw what the Indigenous peoples were doing at that place with that rock. And they said that they were worshiping that rock. And so they tried to blow it up. And they couldn't blow it up because it was too dense. The meteor was too dense. And so they excavated it, they dug it up, and they rolled it in the river. And then they, right on that very site where the impact crater was, they built the Anglican Church. So the Anglican Church is, to this very day, it's right where the that holy place was. And so that was one of the connections I have to Kizik, the sky, and those stars. And the other connection I have to those stars is my people, when they held those ceremonies in the fall and the springtime. That was the time when the migratory birds were flying. And that was a very important time for the people. because that was the time that they'd gather lots of food that they'd process that would last them through the winters and through the spring months. And during those times in the night sky, there was right in the Milky Way, there was a group of stars called Niska, and you would probably identify them as Cygnus the Swan in the Northern Cross, right inside the Milky Way, in part of the Summer Triangle. But my people call that Niska, and they flew right in the Milky Way, and those stars were very important to my people because they signified that these geese were flying at that time, and they brought healing, they brought food, they brought solace, they brought comfort, they brought warmth, and everything was used from that goose, and even the grease and the parts of the body, and some of the stuff that was inside that the birds had were used as medicine, as healing medicines for our people. So it was a very important place, and people from all over the place came to that area at those times. So there was Dakota people that came and camped there. There's stories of our elders telling stories about Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe people coming and camped there, the Blackfoot people, Siksika, the Inuit people coming there, Dene people coming there to that place at those times. So that says to me that these people that traveled, they traveled all over. They weren't territorial. And when I was going to university to getting my post-bac and my Bachelor of Education, a lot of the times I was told that my people were very territorial, and this was their territory, and nobody could come into their territory, or there'd be a war. And I know this is not the case. And one example that I had questions one of my professors on was in regard to the buffalo. They say the buffalo was a staple for a lot of our people, and that they survived on that buffalo, and that buffalo was central to their lives, was a main staple. And so I said, okay, if this is the main staple for this buffalo, then, and if we were territorial, then that means that we'd be following a buffalo, and at some point we'd come across an imaginary line, which was the end of our territory, and then we'd say, oh, can't go any further, sorry, buffalo. I'll have to find some other way to feed my family, and you can't leave our territory. And I know that's not the case, because our people were very we're realists. If you lived on that buffalo and your family depended on that buffalo, you're going to follow that buffalo. It doesn't matter where it went. And there was people. In my lifetime, I've known elders that could speak 6 languages, and they also had a universal sign language that everybody knew and everybody understood. So that says to me, these people were interchanging stories. They were living amongst each other, and they were traveling everywhere. And so, this being the case, there was a lot of knowledge that was passed. And one of those knowledge was about the Niska, that goose. And I ran across this story in the East Coast. And the Mi'kmaq people tell a story about a bear, and my people tell a story about a bear. And the Northern Cheyenne people, they tell a story about a bear. And it's always the same group of stars as the Big Dipper, known as the Big Dipper. So that says that our people traveled. We're extensive travelers. And not only that, the central thing about my people's existence was Poamiak. Poamiak are dreams. My people followed dreams because dreams were reality to us. They weren't apart, weren't separate. They were one and the same. And their dreams give us direction. They give us healing. They give us understanding. They give us reason. They give us reality. They give us glimpses of possibilities. And so my people followed these dreams, and these dreams took them everywhere. One example is I was talking to some elders from back home, and I asked them, where did we come from? From my people, Iape. Iape means buck, and that's who I am, Buck. And I asked them, where did my people come from? And I was told that my people came from downriver, on the plains across the Canadian plains, and they followed the river. but they weren't following the river, they were following a dream, because people were having a dream about a certain place, of a lake with lots of water and islands, rocky islands, and they were looking for that place. And they eventually found it. So they came down from the plains and they stopped off in a place called Cumberland House on the Saskatchewan, in Saskatchewan, a province next to Manitoba. And some people stayed there, and then some people came down to Opaskwayak, and then some people stayed there. And some people went down the river more to a place called Moose Agag on Moose Lake, and then people stayed there. And then some more people went on down to Grand Rapids, where the big dam is built there now. And some people stayed there at the mouth of the mouth of the Saskatchewan River and Lake Winnipeg. And then from there, a group of people went across Lake Winnipeg, and then they found that island that was dreamt about, that place. And that place is called Norway House now. And that's Kiniseo-CP, my people call that, Kiniseo-CP. And so these dreams guided us, and they gave us a reason to exist. And they showed us, like I said before, infinite possibilities. And so these things led me to my understanding of the stars. My connection to the stars was deeper than I'd really thought. Because when I was growing up, the only stories I heard about was when I went to school, and I heard about Orion. I heard about Queen Cassiopeia, and I heard about Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. I heard about things like that. And then at nighttime, I'd be sitting on the banks of the Saskatchewan River, looking up at the sky, looking at all those stars all over the place. And I said, my people must have stories about this. Just that nobody took the time to ask them or to record these things down. And sure enough, that was the case. And from there, I started beginning to decolonize my mind, because I started to understand that every culture on the face of the earth had a capacity for intellectual thought. Every culture on the face of the earth had the capacity of philosophy, of theoretical views, of intellectual capacity. They have all these things. Every culture on the face of the world has that. And it wasn't just one culture knew all of the knowledge that there was to know, because there are other ways of coming to knowledge other than through a factual base and through theorizing and through decompartmentalizing everything. And my people see that as a holistic way of looking at the world. And so I've come to find that these stories of the stars were very important. And they were the educational system for my people. They were the history of my people. And they were a history of all Indigenous peoples all over the world, because every Indigenous culture on the face of the earth had connections to those stars and have connection to those stars, because it's just a simple fact that every culture lived under those stars. Prior to the coming of the industrial age with all the lights and all the pollution, we lived under those stars 24/7. And we became very intimate with those stars. And I had an opportunity to talk with an elder by the name of Ken Goodwill. He's now passed on, but we were at a place in Saskatchewan, a city called Saskatoon. There's a cultural heritage center just outside of Saskatoon on the plains, on the Great Northern Plains. And we were there one night in September, looking at the night sky, and you could see forever. You could see thousands of stars. And he was standing there, and he looked up in the sky, and he said, prior to the coming of the Europeans and all the trauma, the historical trauma that happened to our people, we could name every star in that sky that you can see with the naked eye. There was a constellation attached to it. There was a name. There was a legend. There was a teaching. All these things were up there. Due to the historical trauma that happened to our people, about 85% of that knowledge was lost. And one of the things that he said to me that stuck with me and had an impact on me was, he said, you look at it like this. You think of a village with 100 people. So there's 100 people in a village, and each one of those people has a word to a 100-word song. So when all these people got together and they sung one word to that 100-word song, that was the accumulation of the entire heritage and history of your people and education of your people. And when all those people got together and sang that song, everybody knew. Everybody had a place. Everybody felt good. Everybody knew that they were important. And everybody knew where they came from and where they were going. And then one morning you wake up and 85 people are gone. And all you have is 15 people left. And from there, you got to piece together the new reality. And that's what happened to our people. We lost. The elder said, and this could, I guess, maybe refer to maybe Isaac's ancestry. He said, prior to when the Europeans made first contact with the people in the Caribbean, there was vast trade networks all over the Americas, North, South America, South America, Central America. There was trade routes everywhere, north, south, east, west. People traded everywhere. And so these traders went everywhere doing the trade, trading goods. And an example of that, as a side note, would be up in Opaskwayak Cree Nation, where I'm from. On the banks of the Saskatchewan River, Opaskwayak Cree Nation, in 1969, they were excavating basements because they'd moved my people from that area where they traditionally were at gunpoint to across the river, marched them across the river. And then they took over that site and they made it a town called Lapaw. And anyways, they were excavating basements, and they uncovered a burial chamber. And in that burial chamber was a lady, and she was wrapped in a cedar cloak, and she was painted in ochre. And she had ceremonial items with her. She had an atl that she had with her, and she had other ceremonial items. And people from the archaeologists from the University of Minnesota came up, and they examined these things, and they took them back to the university. And they examined them. And then at some point we heard that the cedar cloak that lady was wrapped in originated from British Columbia, the West Coast. And this was up in the Opaskwayak Cree Nation on the banks of the Saskatchewan River. And they also said that the red ochre that she was painted in originated from the plains where North and South Dakota are now. And there was a chert flint on that atl, and that chert flint originated from the Great Lakes in northern Ontario. And some of the ceremonial one of the ceremonial items that she'd had was a seashell, and that seashell originated from the Gulf of Mexico. So that just says that there's trade happening there. People were trading trade goods, east, west, north, south, west. So there was trade going on. So the elder goes on to say, so there was vast trade networks that were going on. And when there was first contact made in the Bahamas with the Taino people and all the peoples in that area, some of those traders were there, and they traded goods with those Europeans. And they took those goods inland. But what they didn't realize was they were taking other trade goods with them. They were taking diseases, they were taking viruses with them. So he said these diseases and these viruses wiped out 85% of our people and our knowledge base and our systems, our governmental systems, just totally demolished prior to anybody ever seeing a European. This is what happened. And so when the Europeans came in force, our nations were already decimated. And so, but one of the amazing things that the elder told me at that time, standing on the plains in northern Saskatchewan, looking up at the night sky, he said, you know, how this knowledge was acquired through Sundance, was acquired through Sweat Lodge, was acquired through shaking tent, was acquired through fasting, was acquired through dreaming, was acquired through traveling, was acquired through ceremony. All these things, this is how that knowledge was acquired. And the thing about that, he said, is that we still do this. So therefore, that knowledge can be rediscovered, regained. And he said to me, you are an example of that because you are regaining all these stories. And that's what's happening right now. A lot of the young people are want that knowledge. They're wanting to regain that knowledge back and reclaim that history, reclaim that heritage, reclaim their birthright. So that elder, he gave me so much hope in what I was doing and finding out about the stars. Because like I said, the stars were very important to any indigenous culture, even to the Caucasian people prior to the industrial age. They lived under those stars too, and they have their own stories that are very intimate to that sky. So we understood about that sky, and that those stars meant so much to us. And we're told that we come from the stars. We are star people. Atagos in Inyo. We are star beings. Star beings. Not in the sense that we're aliens come to this place or somebody planted us here, but in the sense that there's something inside of us called Atsak. Atsak is spirit. Spirit. Spirit is energy. My people have a name for that energy. It's called Kishigugak. Kishigugak, beings of light, beings of energy. You say Creator had a thought, and when Creator had a thought, whatever Creator thought about came into being, came into reality. Creator thought about light, so light came into being. The first one was Pineshu, the Thunderbird. And that Thunderbird produced other light, which was us, Atsak, spirit. And so when Creator had that thought, we came into being. And they go on to say, Creator can never die. So Creator thought about us. So part of Creator, when Creator thought about us, part of creation, Creator was put inside that thought, which is spirit. So inside of us is part of Creator. We call that spirit, Atsak. So they go on to say, Creator can never die. So therefore, that being, that energy inside of us can never die. It just changes form. It just makes transitions from one form to the next. And so then they go on to say, so Creator can never die. Therefore, that means right now at this very second, creation is still expanding. Creation is still being made because there's Creator is ceaseless in his thought, in the thought processes. And I try very hard to not assign a gender to Kitsumanto, Creator. But being I'm educated in the Western system, I tend to try to stick gender in there. But so forgive me if every once in a while I say he or she. That is not what I mean. But anyway, so creation is still being made. Therefore, we never understand. We haven't the slightest idea what Creator is. And our elders tell us, Nitamagian, Nitamagian, Nitamagian. It translates as I am pitiful. Nitamagian, moikaskiiten. I don't understand. That's what the elders tell us. I am pitiful. I don't understand. Apshispugo. I know just very little of this reality. I know very little of this life, of this reality. But what I do know, I owe all to Atsaga, the spirit, because we're surrounded by spirit. Our people believe that there is spirit. There's nothing but spirit, and that spirit is energy. Energy surrounds us everywhere we go. Everything we do, it's all energy. And energy just changes form. Energy just flows. And we are at this place for a visit. We come down. There's a story about how we come here. And that story is talks about a being called Star Woman, Achagosisquil. And this refers to the Pleiades. So the way I was told the story was, so Creator had a thought, and that thought was Ishigugak, beings of energy, beings of light that roam the cosmos. So these beings of energy, beings of light roam the cosmos, and they were undying. And so they got to go everywhere. And when I mean they got to go everywhere, I mean multiple realities, not only in this reality, but multiple realities. Nothing could stop them because there was doorways through these realities. And so one particular Kichigugak, she came across Bagwan Gizik, the hole in the sky where the Pleiades are. And she looked through that hole in the sky and she looked and she saw Earth. So she looked down there, she saw Earth, she saw the water, she saw the land, she saw the clouds, she saw how it rotated and the shimmering, and she was interested. She looked and she saw the animals and everything on there. And she was interested in going to that place. So she tried to traverse that hole in the sky, but she couldn't do it. And she realized that she needed assistance. And she knew that there was doorkeepers for these holes in the sky. And in this area of our Milky Way, there was one doorkeeper there, and her name was Kugumanagasi's grandmother spider. And she sat on the Milky Way, and she was in charge of that doorway. So Atagasiskwe, Star Woman, she approached Kugumanagasi's grandmother spider, and she asked her if it was okay for her to go through that hole in the sky, and if she could assist her. So grandmother spider said, yes, I can assist you, but there are 3 conditions. The first condition is when you go through that hole in the sky, you got to take a gift to take down there. So when others swallow you, they'll remember where they come from, and they'll know where they have to go back to. So Atagasiskwe said, okay, I agree to that. So the second condition was when you go down there, you got to take a physical form. So again, Atagasiskwe said, okay, I'll agree to that. And the third condition was when you go down there, you can't stay long. So again, Atagasiskwe said, okay, I agree to that. So Kugumanagashis send a single strand of webbing to that hole in the sky, which we call the Pleiades. And a single strand of webbing went down and touched the earth. And on that strand of webbing, Atagasiskwe was lowered down. And when she went to that hole in the sky and she touched the earth, it took a physical form. And that physical form was the human beings. So she was the first one here. And the gift that she bought for us was the Atagosaha group, that star blanket. That was the gift she bought. And as for staying long, how long is long for a being of energy? So she stayed a lifetime. So we're told that through Atagasiskwe and Kugumanagasis, we all come to this place. That single strand of webbing that Atagasiskwe got lowered down into, we all come through that. And that is called the umbilical cord. And that's how we get here. And then we stay a lifetime. And when we arrive, we're given a star blanket. For traditional families, they're given a star blanket. The baby's wrapped in a star blanket. And that just signifies this is where you come from. You come from Pagwangizik, the hole in the sky. And then again, when they pass on, they're wrapped in a star blanket. And they're ready to be sent back home. And again, so they go back home. Again, they're going back through that hole in the sky to continue their journey. And so Bhagwan Gizek, the hole in the sky, tells us that there's multiple realities out there. There's multiple universes. That hole in the sky is just one of many that are out there. And just as a side note, the Kugumanagasi's grandmother spider sitting on the Milky Way, the W in Cassiopeia, is part of that big constellation called Kugumanagasi's grandmother spider. The inner point of that W is the head of the spider. And the 2 legs on the outer edge of the W are the front legs of that spider. And then her body hangs over the Milky Way, close to the Pleiades. And the Kugumanagasis is the one who gave us the dream catcher to filter. She filters those doorways, and she filters our dreams. And that's how we got the dream catcher, again, from Kugumanagasis. So those are connections to the star world for my people. So we are star beings in a sense that the energy that Creator gave us is undying, and we roam the cosmos. We just come here for a little visit. Just come here to taste, because as beings of energy, we don't know what touch, taste, feel, smell, those things are. We don't know what love is. We don't know what hurt is. We don't know what hate is. We don't know what all these things are as beings of energy. But so we come in here and take in a physical form. We learn these things. And then we continue our journey, learning something else somewhere else, seeing other realities. So that's what my people believe. They believe in multiple universes. And it's unending, because Creator is unending. So Creator is unimaginable. He's not some old man sitting in a throne up in the sky. And if you're good, you can go visit him. And if you're bad, then you go someplace else. My people don't believe that. They believe that this is energy. And you come here to visit, and what you do here is you try to be as good and helpful as you possibly can be. And you don't glorify yourself. You don't say, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. I'm pitiful. And that's the perspective we should have. I am pitiful. And when you have that perspective, you can open your mind to other possibilities other than I know this and nobody else knows this. And so I must be the smartest because everybody else doesn't know this. We're pitiful. We don't know nothing. As they say in Game of Thrones, Jon Snow, you don't know nothing. So that's the story of the Pleiades. And through the process, I've come to find all kinds of stories about the sky. And I've realized that all these stories relate to ceremony. And all the ceremony that's done by my people refer to the sky. Every ceremony that's done for my people refer to the sky. But not only that, every ceremony that's done by my people honors Ishkwewak. Ishkwewak is the woman. Because Achagos Ishkwewak, star woman, she was the first one here. She was the first one here. So through her, we slowly started coming to this place. And we were given the star blanket. And then when we passed on, we went back up. And as more and more people came to this place, because that star blanket that was given by Achagos Ishkwewak had 7 points on it to represent the 7 stars of the Pleiades. The original star blanket had 7 points. But as more and more people arrived at this place, they said, you know, we should do something to honor Achagos Ishkwewak, star woman. So they gave her name, Kukuminau. Kukuminau means the first grandmother. So she was the first grandmother. And they added an extra point on that star blanket. So now the star blanket has 8 points on it. Every star blanket you'll see now has 8 points. And that original 7-pointed star plus 1 more. And that extra point is to honor Achagos Ishkwewak, star woman, Kukuminau, the first one here. And it also reminds us that that's where we come from. We come from up there. And we are undying. And we continue our journey up there. So be good and be humble. And you'll find your way. So that's what we're told by our elders.
Yeah. Wow, that's a fascinating story. Because the Pleiades and the star, the spider mother, and the string that we travel on. We were talking about the Pleiades, and you were talking to your astrophysicist, or she's like, tell us that part again, because this is
okay.
where.
So I had a species engagement at the University of Victoria in regard to astronomy, and so I ran into an astrophysicist, and she talked to me about the stars. Her job at the university was to find stars in our galaxy, but not only stars, but certain stars that would most likely have planets around them. So that was her job, was to find these things. Mm. And she said that I invited her to a sweat. She said, "Well, I've never been to a sweat before. I don't really care much about these things. I don't care about organized religion. I don't believe in anything like that. I don't believe in the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church or the Anglican Church or all that stuff." She said, but I'll go to your sweat. So she said, okay. So she came to the sweat, and I started telling the story about how my people believe we got here. And I talked about the energy, the transfer of energy, and the changing of energy, and the undying, and the energy is neither created nor destroyed, things like that. And then after the sweat was over, she came up and she said, you know, this was amazing. This really opened my eyes to another possibility. She said, what you're talking about is particle theory. That's what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But not only particle theory, you're talking about quantum theory also, because of all the possibilities that open up. And she says, I think I could be comfortable thinking like this, she said. So I thought that was pretty cool because, you know, yeah. Yeah. And I tell the students that our people understood about particle theory. Our people understood about quantum mechanics, quantum theory. We understood that we had that possibility. And every culture in the face of this earth have that intellectual capacity.
Mm. Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to share my screen on. We were talking about this earlier. They the NASA. Well, here, I'll show you the images. So here's what a lot of the New Age people are talking about, and also the star language people, but it's actually verified by science. So these stars here are the Pleiades, and we all know about precession, especially my students here. We know about precessions, the processional cycle, which is we go through the dark ages and then we come into the light ages. So here's what's called the photon belt. And photon, like we were saying, is light energy. It's light. Photon is light. That's what photon means. So the Pleiades are inside of this photon belt, and we are connected to the Pleiades through this photon belt. That's why when we see the Pleiades, it's wispy clouds. That's that light energy. And throughout all the ages, this is the Maya cosmology. 2012, we begin our ascension cycle into this photon belt, and that's 2,000 years of light. And of course, it can be discredited, whatever, how everyone does with star language and New Age stuff. But then here's an image from NASA that says the same exact thing. We are entering into what they call a local interstellar cloud. They call this the local fluff. They don't know where it came from. It's cloud interference, they call it. But this is exactly what all of the ancient or indigenous star language wisdom keepers were talking about. And here we have NASA saying, this is what we're doing. We're moving into this, and this is our solar system here, moving into this light cloud. So this is the rays of consciousnness right now. So I just wanted to share that with you because all the stories of the Pleiades tie in with this, because all belief systems, ancient belief systems, say that we come from the Pleiades, and the Pleiades are our star cousins or star family. So I just wanted to share that with everyone real quick. So what's your take on that, Wilfred, about this photon belt?
Well, I understand that again, it talks about energy, and energy changes form all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the processional cycle there, and there's a group of stars up in the sky, close to what Polaris or North Star is right now. And there's a group of stars that we call Pipun Pineso. Pipun Pineso is the winter Thunderbird. And that constellation is part of Ursa Minor, part of Draco. And at the heart of that star is a star, at the heart of that constellation, the winter Thunderbird, is a star in Draco, is where the heart of the winter Thunderbird is. And that star of the heart of that Thunderbird is pretty much right in the center of that, the procession, which I thought was pretty awesome.
What's the name of that star? Is it Thuban? Is it Thuban that's going to be the next pole star, I think, for us?
No, it's not. It's more to the center. It's not a very spectacular star.
Yeah.
But it's close to the Dipper, the bowl dipper of the Little Dipper.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Understood about the procession, and then realized that beings of energy, you get to travel all over the place, so you see a lot of things. So.
Yeah. That part of the sky is also called the Garden of Eden, because all those stars are circumpolar stars, so they never die. You know how in the Egyptian mythology they say east is birth, west is death. You rise in the east and you set in the west, like the story of Horus and Set. So those are circumpolar. Those are the never dying stars. That's why they call it the Garden of Eden. So I want you to share, if you can, one more, because we were talking about the Galactic Center, and then we'll open up for Q&As for the people, and then we'll share some links, like a donation link, and then the book, because you have the book. We'll talk about that. But we were talking about the Galactic Center, and you said, yeah, that's the place of the Thunderbird. And a lot of cosmology, the Maya cosmology, that's where Quetzalcoatl comes from. He's the feathered serpent. And then that's where the 13th zodiac sign is. And that's what we practice, the sidereal astrology that we do. We practice with the 13th zodiac sign. which is the serpent bearer, which traces back to Imhotep of Egypt. But the serpent bearer is holding two snakes. So tell us your story about Thunderbird and the tree of life with Sundance, because that was interesting that we were talking about.
Yeah, so one of the central beliefs of my people is, of course, that we're never ending. The energy is never ending, and it flows. And the reasons that human beings get sick is because we stifle that energy, and we don't let that energy flow. So one of the ways that our people got that energy to flow was through Sundance, and it was through also through Matutsan, the sweat lodge. If you look at the sweat lodge is a good example of particle theory in action. You look at the sun, the energy from the sun goes to the trees, from the wood to the fire, from the fire to the rocks, from the rocks to inside the sweat lodge. You pour water on those rocks, and then the energy goes into you, into your respiratory system, your circulatory system, and then the largest organ in your body, your skin, comes alive from all that energy flowing, and then it goes back up to the sky. And that cycle is the flow of energy. And that's why people sometimes they come out of that sweat lodge and they say they're floating because they're fully full of light. And that's because all their pores are opened and the energy is flowing, the energy in full flow. And that's the same as the Sundance. We have that sacred tree. We call it Ukamawatik. And on that tree is the Thunderbird nest. So the one of the first ones in our mythologies are sacred stories. I shouldn't call them mythologies. Our sacred stories is that Pinesu was one of the first ones created. And the creator had a thought, and there was darkness. And then creator had another thought, and there was light. So there's always dualities. Whatever happens, there's always dualities. Death and life, dualities. Night and day, dualities. So these dualities offset each other and balance each other out. And so Thunderbird had a thought. And so Thunderbird gave his voice, and that voice became the first sound, the first song. So the first song resonated through the universe. And for my people, during the summer at Sundance, they dance right from when the sun starts coming up, they're woken up and then they start dancing. And when the sun starts going down, that's when they stop dancing. And one of the things is when they stop dancing and they get ready for bed, they can look out to the south. And when they look out to the south, you can see the Milky Way in this, where Sagittarius is. And right above that is a huge, massive constellation called Pinesu, Nipin Pinesu. It's a summer thunderbird. And the summer thunderbird sits on the Milky Way. And it's part of Libra. It encompasses probably about 4 big, massive constellations. So it's massively huge. And it rests right on where Sagittarius is. And our elders say that's the Thunderbird. And he sits right on that where he sits is the nest of the Thunderbirds. And in that nest are the eggs of the Thunderbird. And those eggs are the black holes. Again, which will produce more Thunderbirds. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that whole part of the sky. Well, I'm going to share some links. I'm going to share a donation link if anybody wants just to make a donation to you. And then your book. So we have Wilfred's book that he wrote and a star map, right? And he's going to sign it for you guys and mail it out to you. So I'm going to share the link for the book. I put it on my site, but you want to talk about the book for a little bit while I share this link?
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to share a story, one of the stories. I don't think it's in the book because it just happened after the book was published. And it had to do with retrograde motion and one of the planets. We talk about the morning star, and it's very significant to a lot of the cultures, the morning star. But one of the things is that a lot of people tend to put all the morning stars. They realize that there's not only one morning star, but there's 3 or 4 of them. And one in particular I came across when I was young, about 13 or 14. We were asked to help the hunters. There was 4 of us young people, and they told us we got to help the hunters. And so they took us out, and it was wintertime. and probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, they took us out, and they had knocked down 3 moose. And so we were out there, and they built a fire. After they knocked down the moose down, they built a fire, then they put tobacco in the fire, and they looked up in the sky, and there was a bright star in the sky, and they prayed. And as they did that, I'd ask them why they do that, and a lot of them said, well, because my grandfather did. This is a tradition. And basically what they were doing was they were offering tobacco for the gift of the Musaiga and the Musa. And so anyways, I thought about that and that bright star. And then one night I had this dream. And in this dream, I was laying flat on the ground looking at the sky. And I saw this moose run across the sky. And the moose ran across the sky. And as he did so, he stopped and he made a circle in the sky. Then he continued his journey. And for those of you that might or might not know, that's what a moose does. When you're hunting a moose and you startle him, he'll run in a big wide circle. Then he'll come back to where he began. Then he'll continue his journey on. And so what I was showing was retrograde motion and Mars. And I said, oh, that's awesome. That's why the hunters, because we're putting down that tobacco, they were acknowledging that retrograde motion and the pattern of the moose. And they understood that pattern of the moose because of the star. The planet, Mars.
Oh, wow.
They call Musa Atsak, which means moose spirit. Or another name for it is, what is it? I can't remember. Anyways, it has to do with circles back. Don't bump on you. It means circles back. So that's, again, is one of the things about retrograde motion and more. So, and again, it was revealed through a dream and making connections with the experience. So I thought it was
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, great. So, wow, fascinating. So I shared the link for the book on my site so people can buy. But that email that you gave me, is that a PayPal link, a PayPal email address?
It's e-transfer.
Oh, e-transfer. Okay.
Yeah, e-transfer. That's my wife's e-transfer.
Okay, I don't know how e-transfer works, but I'll put it here and we'll see. Well, if anybody wants to make a donation and they can't, they'll just let me know. Most of these people are part of my group. So, but tell us, and then the link for the book is in the chat, and everyone. So if you want to buy the book, look at the link. It's in the chat. If not, email me too. I'll give you the link. But tell us about the book for a little bit, and then tell us about the school, because I was pretty excited when you told me that you have 55 schools for First Nation, and I just thought it was one school, and you worked in a museum and you were just doing what you can, and that was good. But you're talking about a major education system of decolonizing.
The book came about because going to the school, I work with the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Center up in Manitoba, and Manitoba has about 65 First Nation communities, and so each one of those communities has one school. Some of them have 2, some of them have 3, from K to 12, and so our organization was mandated by the Manitoba Assembly of Chiefs to administer to all the curriculum development of these schools and all the professional development of the teachers and all the gatherings for all the students. And so my little niche in all this is science. And so we do a lot of hands-on science. We do a lot of physics, a lot of blowing up stuff and getting the kids' attention. And then we get them to do a lot of the stuff too. So they get hands-on work. And then we connect that to a lot of the traditional teachings because the majority of these communities are out in the bush, or they don't have labs readily available. So we do just work with what we got, and a lot of it has to do with outdoor education. And of course, the stars are out there, always out there. So we connect with those stars, and we start talking about simple things like orienteering. How do you find yourself? How do you find your way if you ever get lost in the bush? And it's pretty straightforward, pretty common sense. Of course, the North Star is always available, but one thing they don't realize is that the moon rises in the east and sets in the west, same as the sun rises in the east. But all the planets rise in the east, set in the west, and even the stars come up on the east and they set in the west. So those are orienteering techniques. But also, when you look at the sun in the daytime, sometimes the sun chases the moon, and other times the moon chases the sun, depending on a full moon or a new moon. But during those times, the moon is up when the sun is out. So there's the east-west connection right there. You line those two up, and you know they're east-west. So those are some common sense things that students should know about. And so we have about 55 schools that we work with, and these schools are spread out right from the 49th parallel, North Dakota, all the way up to Nunavut territory, way up north near the Arctic Circle. And we fly, we drive. Sometimes we drive for 6-7 hours, sometimes 12 hours. We go by skidoo, we go by hovercraft, we go by boat to get to these places. And so we have there's about 260 of us covering all subject areas. So I haul around a portable planetarium I take to these schools. And this inflatable dome altogether it has 4 parts to it, and altogether it weighs about 200 pounds. And so we haul it around all over the place, and we set it up in school. And then we make sure that all the kids get the opportunity to come into that planetarium and view the sky and all the stars that we have to date. And these are Inuit communities, Cree communities. These are Anishinaabe communities. These are Dakota communities. These are Inuit communities. These are Dene communities. And these are OG Cree communities. And this is another distinction of one of the First Nations in northern Manitoba, northeastern Manitoba, OG Cree. And so we have these 6 language categories and 6 distinct peoples that we take the star knowledge to. And once we get into communities, if I'm there overnight, and I usually make time to have it opened up, have the planetarium opened up to the community, so the elders can come and see. And before they go into there, I always ask them, "Do you remember any stories when you were young?" And to a person, they usually say no. And then they do the planetarium, and they come out, and then 1 or 2 of them will stop and they say, "Hey, I remember the story," and then they relate the story. And then once they relate the story, then I start making the connections to, okay, which star they're talking about, and what does that signify, and stuff like that. And yeah, a lot of that's how we found a lot of these stories in that book, was through letting the elders just jog their memory.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, Hillary ordered a book earlier, so we're going to get one at home.
Yeah.
And then we got some more orders, and I think the link is up here in the chat, so whoever wants to get a book. Wilfred's going to sign it, right? From the Stars with Love, Wilfred.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know if we have time. It's 8, but if anybody, I mean, maybe we can open up if anybody wants to have any questions. Just chat with Wilfred or for a little bit, because I'm just fascinated. And like I said, it's been an inspiration. The orienteering video, I watched that the other day, and I shared it in my newsletter, because that's how we travel too. We're on a boat part-time, so we have the full dome of the sky almost every night when it's not cloudy. So we just, that's our television. Like we don't, yeah. Like we were away for a week or so, and I've been back home for a couple of days, and I don't know what to do with myself. I have a roof, I can't see up.
Yeah, it's not the same.
But yeah, I don't know how we would do this, if we want to raise hands or just unmute yourself, and we can talk to Wilfred, and whoever wants to just unmute yourself. And
Julie had a question that she put in the chat too.
Oh, Julie had a question?
I did, and then of course it prompted 2 more questions, so there you go.
Oh yeah, so let me just, Wilfred, this is Julie. She's one of my students, and she also does Pleiadian Earth energy astrology, and she did something on one of these calls too. So she's really tapped into Pleiades energy. So I wonder if that's what she's going to bring up. Anyway, Julie, you ask your question.
Well, so there are 3 different ones. One is probably a quick, easy one. You were talking about the star blanket pattern, and it had 7 points, and then you added the 8th point. Does each person, when they receive a star blanket at birth, have a specific pattern included for them personally, or is everybody's the same?
Everybody's the same, and it usually in traditional families, it's a 7-pointed star that they're given, and that's specific.
Okay.
Descriptively, it talks about the Pleiades, reminds everybody about the Pleiades. But usually when they pass on, it's an 8-pointed star that's given to include.
Okay, that makes sense. And then does your culture use the planets and as similarly as we do in sidereal astrology in terms of how they aspect and how you use those energies on a daily basis, or do you incorporate that into your culture at all?
Oh, she froze.
Oh, no, I'm still here.
Oh yeah. I never came across anything to do with terms of astrology with some of the stories. They're morely pertain to a lot of the I guess the sacred stories that my people hold.
And the planets play into some of those sacred stories along with the star constellations?
Yeah. There's Mars, of course, Venus. Like if you look at the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, in the east, we call it Wapan, Bewapan, and that's the coming dawn star, which of course is not a star, but it's the planet Venus, the morning star.
Mm-hmm.
And the south, Osawanuk, and they're not talking about a bright yellow star. They're talking about the planet Jupiter in the summertime. It's very bright in the southern sky.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the west, Nagapanuk. Nagapanuk is the disappearing star, again, which is not a star, but it's the evening star, which is again Venus.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kiwaitin is Polaris, the North Star. Kiwaitin, they call it Kiwaitin. The root word for Kiwaitin is Kiwe, and that means home. That's the going home star.
Mm-hmm.
Another name they have for Kiwaitin, the going home star, is Ekagachet. Ekagachet means it stands still. So that's the only star that doesn't move in the sky.
Yeah, so there's no horoscopes, like you don't, like we do horoscopes, so we
Yeah.
chart and we say da, 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 da. So yeah, there's no horoscopes. It's
Yeah, well, lately I've seen some people have made tarot cards with a lot of First Nations imagery in it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And spirit animals, they call them.
Yeah, totems. Yeah, spirit totem stuff. Yeah.
I was just thinking more in lines with like the aspects and how they affect each other, like, you know, with say the sun and Mercury being conjunct right now and how the sun occluding Mercury affects how we think and communicate because the sun kind of overtakes it with that stronger energy. I just don't know if that's incorporated into.
The only thing close to that would be Tipiskawipism, would be the moon.
Mm.
The moon, the influence that the moon has. And the moon is very important because prior to the coming of the Europeans, pretty much every culture in North, Central, and South America went by a lunar calendar. And of course, it consisted of 13 full moons in one complete cycle, and each moon was separated by 28 days. And they found that was evident on the snapping turtle and the painted turtle shell. In the back of these turtle shells, there's 28 sections on the outer edge of the turtle shell, and on the inner section, there's 13 sections. So the turtle was our living calendar. That's one of the reasons why they call this place Turtle Island.
Oh, that's really cool.
Well, I didn't know that. Yeah. Wow. The turtle.
Amazing.
All right. Isn't that? Isn't that what the flat Earth people say too? I don't know. I mean, that's totally off subject, but they show flat Earth on top of a turtle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't. That's off topic. Sorry, but I just had that image in my head. So yeah. Great.
And I posted the other question in the chat, but you know, in the interest of trying to keep these things alive and keep them growing and thriving when we're losing so much of these cultures to death or death of a language or lack of interest by the younger generations, how can we use the stars today to tell our stories of today to preserve them?
Well, that's a good, interesting question because prior to the coming of the COVID, we were planning an international Indigenous star knowledge gathering from Indigenous people from all over the world, coming to Ottawa and sharing their traditional star stories. I had planned to assemble about 12 portable domes in this big field at Ottawa. And we were going to set up telescopes. So everybody would, like people from the Maori people from New Zealand would come the Aboriginal people from Australia, Hawaiian peoples, people from South America, from Central America, from the Dene from the Navajo territories, and the Dene from the Northwest territories. So we'd have all these people coming to this one central area, and then everybody would get in a portable dome, and then we could flip the sky to the sky that they're familiar with, and then they could relate their stories. So that's what we were planning to do before all this craziness started. But we toned it down. So in September the 21st, we're going to be meeting in Manawagi, just outside of Ottawa, and there's going to be some Algonquian elders, some Haudenosaunee, and we have two speakers from Australia. They're going to be talking about some of the star stories. And we're going to have that online and a webinar. But in June of next year, 2021, we're planning to have a big, large gathering, again, of all the a lot of knowledge keepers to come together to share those stories, so we can record them and we can synthesize them and maybe put them in some kind of educational format for schools throughout the world.
That is amazing. Ike, if you can keep on top of the September 21st event, if we can register for that, that would be insanely incredible.
Yeah. I was talking to Wilfred. Hillary and I were going to RV. Well, I have like 3 telescopes. Pack them up, and we're done. Yeah, we can drive out for sure. Yeah.
I grew up in Michigan and spent quite a bit of time camping up in the Algonquin area and many of the provinces or the provincial parks up there. So yeah, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Wow.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm gonna share the link again for the book. Anybody have any other questions or want to keep going? I'm gonna share the link again in the chat for the book. But that's Wilfred's book. We're gonna have one coming home soon, so that's nice.
His website as well.
Huh?
How about his website? I've seen it, but it would be nice to have
Wilfred, you have a website, or is it just a website for the school?
Well, it's there's, if you just go on YouTube and Google me, you'll find a lot of other links to.
Yeah.
But I don't have an official website, no.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Google. Yeah, that's a lot.
For the Star Symposium, there is a website, and it's Ingenium, INGENIUM.
Mm-hmm.
It'll pop up with the gathering that's going to take place in September.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put that in the chat?
Yeah. Let me put that in the chat. Well, I had the website up. Let me get that website up again.
Yeah.
How do you say the website again?
Ingenium.
Uh-huh.
EUM.
INGENIUM. That's the Science and Technology in Ottawa.
Oh, Ingenium.
So that would be available to do on through a webinar as well, or is it strictly in person?
It's a museum.
Well, there's some of it is in person, but a lot of it is because of the because of travel restrictions. A lot of it is webinar.
Okay, it's coming out. I'm finding. Oh, here you go. Home ingeniumcanada.org. Yeah. Put that in the chat.
So Wilfred, I'm curious what your vision is and what your hope is for these schools and for your work in the future.
Well, for the schools, I just want to what the elders had told me was that when I started this journey was that the students have to have the chance to understand their history and the knowledge of their people, because the history of the stars is the history of their people. It's the educational process of how they came to knowledge prior to European contact, and it was strictly through the stars and through dreams and through the spiritual experience.
Yeah, so important. Is there a way that people can donate directly to the school?
Well, like I said, there's 55 schools.
Or 55 schools, okay. So there's not, Yeah, so we can support you in your efforts in this.
Mhm. Yeah.
Great.
Like the portable dome I have, I've had it for about 11 years now. And we've gone through about 4 portable domes, inflatable domes. And each of these domes costs $11,000.
Holy cow.
Wow.
So all the equipment and plus the dome itself and all the software comes to about $40,000, 40 grand.
Wow.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, and
You need a lot of support.
we take it up and down. We inflate it, deflate it, haul it around, throw it in planes and everything, and it gets beaten up, and then we have to buy a new one. And
Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. So
Wow.
you got to
See,
put
yeah, so
initiative.
we're always looking for funds.
yeah, it's needed.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll keep all this in the loop. I mean, this is really fascinating for us. Like, we're branching out. I think that's the practice that we do. We do astrology and horoscopes. We branch out past the basic horoscope chart reading, and we bring in star language, star knowledge, so we have a better understanding of why we're even doing astrology or reading the stars, what's in the stars. So this is great that you helped us see another perspective, rather than like the horoscopes and newspapers and things like that, which is a joke. So this has been a great experience for us. So yeah, I want to thank you for showing up, Wilfred, for us.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So anybody have any last minute questions or whatever? Because we're going to wrap this up, I think. Wilfred is got to go to dinner now, right?
One of the other things that you might
Uh-huh.
look out for is that we're in the process of putting together a traveling exhibit
Yeah.
that is going to be going to all the major museums of the world. And it's based on traditional star knowledge of the First Nations people. And again, this is through a company called Nomad, and it's a fairly established company that deals with things like the Louvre and the Royal Museum in London, in Edinburgh, and so we're putting together a traveling exhibit to showcase a lot of the star knowledge.
Oh wow, that would be fantastic. Yeah, keep us in the loop.
It's called One Sky, Many Stories. I think no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, One Sky, Many Stories. I think it's called.
I love it. When is that going to happen?
2022.
Ah,
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just putting together an information booklet right now. So.
Oh, we're in for that one. Yeah. This is great.
really exciting. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a couple orders on some books, so I'll touch base with you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
And we'll get them signed off. Oh yeah, it's quite a few. Wow, there's a bunch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. All right. Well, we have a few books for you to sign. So. Yeah.
All right.
So we'll organize. We'll get organized. I'll reach out to you probably tomorrow because it's late over here. And.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, this was great. All right. We'll keep in touch with everything.
Yeah. Best to you.
Everybody has a good night.
Okay.
You too.
All right, Wilfred.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Melody. All right, guys. So, all right. Yeah, I think we're done. We're kind of tired. Thanks for showing up, everyone. Julie and Melody Bear. Who else is on? Laurel. Joy is on. She just emailed us.
Diane and Randall.
Oh, okay, yeah, she said I meant to buy one. Yeah, I'll look at that in the back end. All right, yeah.
Val.
All right. Let's see. I bought the book. It's on both for Tuesday. Okay, great. So anyway, okay.
Roberto. Yeah, thanks
So,
everyone. Bye.
We'll keep in touch. We'll see everyone later. All right.
Guys.
Bye.